I was working in Riverdale Mill in the weed room on the second shift, and I was real young. And I just had learned how to tie in warps. Well, I was, I don't know, maybe just a little bit into my shift. And Butch Kilgore was supervisor. And he told me to go over to the loom and tie in what they called a change. That's when they put a whole new different style of towels on it. And you have to tie the bottom warp and the top warp. A regular tie-in job, you just tie one or the other, not both at the same time. And I ain't never done that. I really and truly didn't know how to. I was scared trying to just tie in a regular warp. But anyway, I told him, I said, I don't know how. He said, well, you tie it in, man. You're supposed to be running this job. You're going to have to tie it in. I said, Bush, I ain't never tied one in. I'm probably going to, if I go over, I'll probably mess it up. He said, you going to tie it in? I said, no, I'm not. He said, you telling me you're not going to run this job? I said, Bush, I don't know how to. Now, of course, I don't remember word for word, but I said, Butch, I don't know how to. He said, well, if you're not going to do it, you just need to leave. I said, well, I guess I need to leave then. And I was tying a warp in at the minute. And I just threw my brush down and walked out the door and through the fence, and they was playing ball down there on the ball field. So I got in the car and drove down there and walked over to the bleachers and leaning on in and watching the ball game. And Roy Bletzer saw me. He was a supervisor on the third shift. He said, why ain't you at work, Joe? I said, I guess I got fired. He said, what? And I told him what happened. He said, what you need to do is go down to John T. That was a overseer in the weed room, and talk to him. Just go down there and knock on his door and talk to him. Because if you don't, you probably are going to get fired. So I stood there a few minutes, and I said, well, it ain't going to hurt nothing. So I drove down to John T's house, got out, knocked on the door, and his wife come on the door. I said, could I talk to Mr. John T? And she called him, and I could see him through the living room and through a little hall. He was sitting at the table eating. He come to the door and said, what's wrong, Joe? So I told him. He said, you go to back down there and go in there and you wait. Don't say nothing to nobody, just wait. I'll be down there in a few minutes. So I drove back to the mill, went in the weed room, went in there, and Butch, I don't know if he's filling out papers where he fired me or what, but he was filling out some kind of paper. And there was somebody else in there, and I don't know who in the heck it is. He looked around and he said, I thought you quit. And I said, no, I didn't quit. He said, well, you walked out, said you need to leave. I said, well, John T told me to come back down here and wait on him. And it looked like all the blood run out of his face. I mean, it was just, I ain't never seen nobody look like it. And I just walked over there and sat down in a chair, and I didn't say nothing else. Well, it took a while, but John T come in the door. And that other guy who was in there left. Said, y'all come in my office. So we went in there, and we both told our story. And of course, I spiced mine up a little and told him I just didn't want to mess that change up. Somebody have to go through all that trouble and do it again. Anyway, he said, Joe, you want to run your job? I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, well, get your ass out there and run it. So I got up, walked out, and went back up there and started running my job again. And they had called somebody in to tie in that change. So I didn't have to fool with that, thank goodness. But anyway, Butch stayed in there a pretty good while because I kept watching door, and finally I noticed John T. leaving. And the next day, the very next day, Butch wrote a commendation up on me for doing an excellent job performance. I don't know what John T. said to him, but oh my God, he must have chewed him out.